to give you nightmares. Bergenfield, New Jersey, 1935. For months, several murders plagued the quiet town. Entire families were wiped out, their heads slashed or bashed in by an axe while they slept in their beds. The killer left no witnesses. Dogs didn't even bark to warn their owners and neighbors. In every case, no items of value were taken, and there were no connections between any of the families killed. The killer gained entry by slowly chiseling away at window and door frames, possibly over weeks at a time. Through each house, the eyes in several pictures had been scratched out, and mirrors were covered by blankets and tablecloths. Finally, messages were left for the police to find. Some read,
"The occipital lobe of man shall forever be cut off from the light of day. You will never find me.
And
I enjoy watching from below as you change in your bedrooms."
because the mirrors were covered and eyes scratched out of pictures at every scene, the papers dubbed this deranged killer No Looking. Fear spread like a virus.
My goodness, what's happening in our town?
I don't sleep anymore.
Why can't they just catch this man?
I hear he's 7 feet tall.
How long before he attacks my family?
The local force was desperate and called on Paterson, New Jersey's police detective Lawrence Brennan to lead their investigation.
We'll put this killer to rest.
Soon after he signed on to the case, the police received a call from a local who said that his neighbors hadn't collected their mail or answered their door in days, which was unusual. Detective Brennan went to investigate firsthand, along with several officers led by Chief of Police Justin Williams.
Do not let the press within 2 blocks of this house.
Upon entering the home, Detective Brennan found all the usual markings of No Looking's work. Picture frames were turned over. All the mirrors in the house were gathered and laid across the living room. They were covered with spare blankets and tablecloths. The killer didn't write his message on paper this time. Instead, he used his victim's blood to splatter the message over the mirror's tarps.
Eyes must look no more.
Detective. Chief. Yes. The victims. Their eyes are cut out.
Brennan investigated every inch of the house. He ventured upstairs through all the rooms and found the bathtub full of blood. He entered the victims' bedrooms and stayed with them for a while, praying over their bodies. Williams entered with news.
My men found his entrance. The killer came in through the kitchen window, same as always, chiseling it down over time. Thank you, Williams. Have you concluded anything new? Based on the body's decomposition, this family was murdered 3 days ago, just after midnight. Yet, I noticed the fireplace was used within the last 24 hours. The killer made this home his own, living with the dead bodies for days.
Later that afternoon, Brennan gathered the team at the police station.
This was his 10th attack in 3 months. We have a sophisticated killer on our hands. He knows how to move quietly and be unseen. In several cases, dogs lived on the very property he attacked. The fact that they never warned their owners indicates he groomed them over time, threw them pieces of meat in the days leading up to the murders, perhaps even played with them while their owners were at work and school. He has come into your backyard and threatened your neighbors. But we will find him. We will catch this man, goddammit. We are going to see changes in this town. No Looking's reign of terror will soon come to an end.
Curfew, 9 p.m. curfew. The mayor, with the help of the police department,
a new curfew established until this axe-wielding madman is caught. Stay indoors at 9 at night. Lock up tight, and God be with you.
Brennan had the department call every house in town between the hours of 9 p.m. and midnight to ensure everyone was accounted for. Extra officers were deployed each night to drive through the streets. It was quiet. For a while, Brennan's techniques worked. No panicked calls came into the station, and everyone was accounted for. It was nearing the end of November when a headline startled Brennan on the front page of the local newspaper. It read, "Message from no-looking, infamous killer." His letter.
I am the nighttime terror the papers call no looking. This is a misnomer. I do all the watching. When I close eyes, they close forever. You will look no more. I welcome new victims. I call you to see me, to take one last look with earthly eyes. I lust after the police, but their incompetence brings them no closer to me. I want them. I turn to the public for help. Here is my message to all who read. Impress NL with ease. I nap tin the filed bath. Head swell lied at your teeth. Please decipher my message, and perhaps they will finally meet me. No looking will be watching.
He's a terror.
I couldn't make sense of what he said at all.
It must be a code.
It was probably some sick person playing a prank on all of us.
I'm astonished the paper printed it.
It's sensational.
It's disgusting.
Of course they printed it.
Brennan gathered officers for another strategic meeting.
You're setting a trap. If we want these violent means to meet an end, we must seem as though we are falling right into it. We will patrol the streets in pairs, heading all over the town. We will explore the same parts of town at the exact same time each night. This way, if he is watching, he will recognize a pattern and fall right into our hands. This is how we catch our man. This is how we bring him to justice. Williams, let's look over this letter.
Impress NL with ease. I napped in the filed bath. Headswell lied at your teeth. It's almost gibberish. An anagram, perhaps?
It could be. Count each letter out. Then we'll work together to arrange them in patterns that make sense. I napped in the filed bath. I napped in the filed bath. Stay here and solve this. I'm heading back to the last house. The bathtub.
Brennan raced to the site, revisiting the bloody bathtub. At first glance, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but upon determined digging, a chill ran down his spine as he realized a note was tucked beneath the drain stopper. On the paper were directions to a shed. Brennan used the home's phone.
Williams, we have directions to a site, someplace in the woods. Grab 5 others and drop what you're doing.
Williams, the other officers, and Brennan searched the woods in the center of town for no looking space. All they found were a lack of footprints or tire tracks. No traces of anyone or anything at all. After 5 hours of looking to no avail, they decided to abandon their hunt for the night. Once they reached their patrol cars, they heard a frantic call from an officer at the station.
He struck again. Over. I repeat, he struck again. Over.
They arrived to the home of the victims, and and found them gathered into one room, their heads beaten in by an axe. Again, a message was left behind.
I'm waiting.
Frustration burrowed into Brennan's brow.
Based on decomposition, he committed this crime just an hour or two ago.
Sir, what if the riddle in the paper was just a distraction?
We don't know that yet. We can't rule out the possibility of the shed's existence until we've searched every square inch of those woods.
We looked for 5 hours while he was here killing these people. I think it was a distraction, and we may need to refocus our efforts.
You need to trust me, Williams. His message of "I'm waiting" indicates to me that he will be waiting for us at the shed.
With all due respect,
We
sir,
don't have much further in the woods to search.
I think he's playing us.
Perhaps he killed these people tonight to make us think the shed and the riddles were distractions. We won't know until each lead is pursued to its end.
I just want this man behind bars.
He will be.
Upon hearing of this attack, the townspeople armed themselves.
I'm sleeping every night with a knife under my pillow.
My whole family sleeps in my room. Make sure to keep a shotgun handy. No way he's getting my beloved.
I hope he chooses my house next. I've got an axe of my own with his name on it.
Late into the night, Brennan's plans to trap No Looking were set into motion. Several patrols were sent throughout Bergenfield. A rookie officer with a sharp eye saw a figure moving in the darkness. He stepped out of the car to investigate while his partner stayed in the vehicle to call in the sighting. A few minutes later, the other officers arrived on the scene and discovered the rookie's partner in a panic.
Something's not right. He went to check on something, and he hasn't been back.
The police went after the rookie. After rounding the street corner, they discovered he'd been beheaded. His wallet had been taken, then placed in his hand. The eyes of the young officer's children were scratched out of his pictures. A bloody footprint led a trail away from the crime scene. Brennan quickly grabbed a team of officers and followed it. They got 200 feet away when they found the shoe left behind. He had his team move in the same direction, with pairs of the men spread out in 15-foot gaps to cover more ground. Meanwhile, the station reeled with fear and anger.
We tried to set a trap, but we became tangled in it.
If we weren't patrolling, James would still be here.
It's not Brennan's fault. He was going to target the police. He said as much in his letter.
Brennan's out there right now looking for the murderer.
Which means he's either insane or incompetent.
Some of our men went with him. Aren't they stupid as well?
Williams cut through the noise.
Shortly after midnight, we lost a great companion. James Schilling was a dedicated, kind, and trustworthy man. It was an honor to have him on the force. Though he was here for such a short time, he left an indelible impression on this unit. In the morning, we will fly our flag at half-staff in his honor. For those of you not on overnight duty, do your best to rest tonight.
By 7 a.m., the town had become a circus, and Brennan and his team still hadn't returned.
Do you have some answers?
They have a right to demand to speak to your superior.
I need to know
Right now, this is ridiculous.
who's behind this.
The station was surrounded by journalists and tourists from across the United States. Everyone wanted a glimpse or a piece of the town befallen by a demon. The doors were so crowded, officers could hardly leave the station.
A heavy November morning befalls Bergenfield, New Jersey, as news of an officer passing reaches the town.
Lift me up, Daddy. I want to see.
I'd like to speak to Police Detective Lawrence Brennan. Is he available for comment?
I am Chief of Police Justin Williams. We are doing everything we can to find this killer. Leave the work to us. In the meantime, we need you to back away from the premises so we can get back to work. We will give you 15 minutes until we will begin arresting trespassers.
The crowd simmered and staggered away as Brennan pulled up to the station with the other searchers.
Thank God you're alive. Tell me you found the hideout.
Not yet.
You haven't found it. People from out of town are hounding us to catch this man. He is making a mockery out of the force.
And who asked for my help? You didn't know where to begin on this case. You needed an expert.
An expert has fallen for tricks.
Have you solved his anagram? You've had it all night. You call it a trick, yet you haven't even given it a chance.
You've been searching for an imaginary shed. He's a maniac. He wouldn't willingly lead us to him, would he?
Maybe his location is in the riddle, but you've been sitting on it this whole time. It's been right under your nose. Did you get a good look at the crowd assembled here?
I was more concerned with getting them to leave. Why?
No Looking is a psychopath. He is self-centered and self-obsessed. The media attention probably excites him. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the crowd himself.
I don't know if he was here.
Have the officers search the area in case he left anything behind. He likely would have stayed in the back, watching everyone. Perhaps we can find tracks leading to his hideout.
That's if he was here.
Tell your officers to do what I said. I need a shower.
My officers and I are in mourning, and we've all been overworked, so I'm dismissing most of them for the day. They'll do a better job of investigating after getting some rest, and so would you, sir.
Brennan took a moment to assess his body. He was exhausted.
I'll be back tomorrow, first thing. I expect my patrols to still go out as scheduled.
They will.
The day was quiet, but Brennan could hardly rest. He would fall asleep, but quickly be jolted awake by terrifying thoughts. By the crime scenes, full of images more gruesome than any he had ever seen before. Or by the image he had in his mind of the killer. A tall, thin man with a permanent smile on his face, winking at him before he strikes down on his skull. Suddenly, he felt a figure standing over him. He saw Williams lunging toward him.
Brennan!
He jolted awake.
Jesus, I thought you were dead.
What's going on?
Brennan looked around. It was pitch black outside. He turned on the light.
What the hell are you doing in my home?
2 officers were killed tonight. 2. I called here to let you know, but you didn't answer. Jesus, I thought he found you and killed you too.
Which officers?
Collins and Madison.
Jesus.
We were patrolling in groups of 4 tonight. He took them from right underneath us. We're maybe 100 feet away from them, and he cut their throats. We heard their bodies hit the ground. Bam! Bam! It was that quick. But we didn't see which direction he headed. You should have seen us trying to perform CPR on a couple of dead guys while constantly looking over our shoulders. He definitely saw us. I felt him watching. We were trying to find that shed. That's the other thing I tried to tell you. One of my men found this on our lawn yesterday afternoon. You were right. He was watching as I spoke to the press.
Williams handed him a map. An area was circled in blood.
This is where he is. We can finish this.
After sunrise. It's still too dark to go back out there.
Let's head to the station now. This ends today.
The next morning, Brennan and Williams picked up their search for the shed. They had 5 other officers with them. Finally, the hideout was in their sights. They cautiously surrounded the small, hastily built shed.
Move slowly. 1 man on the south side window. 2 on the north side. 2 people on each door. Williams and
several brain samples from each of his killings. The smell of brain and blood was overwhelming. In front of each mass was written a number: 5, 8, 18, 5, 13, and so on. The officers took pictures and notes of the scene and headed back to the station, constantly looking over their shoulders. Back in the station.
While you were away getting rest, I unraveled the killer's anagram. It reads, "The answer is simple. Find it in the alphabet. The dates will lead you there."
The dates will lead you there. I noticed, while photographing the scene, that the numbers written on each slip of paper correspond to the dates of the murders. August 5th, 8th, 18th, September 5th, 13th, October 1st, 5th, 9th, 18th, November 5th, 22nd. Find it in the alphabet. The dates will lead you there. Each date might relate to a letter of the alphabet, a code.
You don't suppose he killed people on specific days just so he could spell out a message?
I wouldn't put anything past him.
The amount of thought that went into this. We've got an absolute madman in our backyard.
What days were your officers killed? He didn't have time to collect samples on those nights because we would have caught him. Those could be necessary to solve this riddle as well.
They were killed on November 23rd. And technically early today, the 25th. Those correspond to W and Y. I'll add those letters and see if we have a message.
Why would a madman want to be caught?
Though it seemed improbable that no looking would lead the force right to him, Brennan felt he was on the precipice of truth.
Everywhere, it spells. I am everywhere.
am everywhere.
I am everywhere. He killed nearly a dozen families. He slaughtered officers just to tell us this. This is all a joke to him. He had us running around to find this as an answer.
Sir, calm down.
Brennan rushed out of Williams's office and ran for the sinks in the locker room. He had failed. He fell for every trick in the killer's arsenal. It was as if all the walls in the building were wrapping themselves around him, choking him, spinning him, throwing him to the floor. He splashed his face with cold water. A faint, foul smell entered his nose. He looked down and saw his toothbrush was covered with a sticky red and pink substance. Slowly, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a note taped to a mirror over a nearby sink. He approached it. In the killer's handwriting, it said,
Head swell lied at your teeth.
Brennan's head swirled. He looked at the toothbrushes near his, and they were all covered in the same material, which he realized was brain smear. He raced around the rows of sinks, all defaced, until he saw one mirror covered by tarp. A note beside it read,
Farewell.
Brennan noticed the window next to the sink was just slightly opened. He climbed outside and saw the window frame had been chiseled away. It wasn't until officers surrounded him that he noticed he'd been screaming.
He was here. He was here. Don't you understand? He was here. What's going on? He was here. He found his way inside.
Brennan stayed like this, screaming, surrounded by the officers, until he couldn't scream.
He was here. He was here. He was here. He was here.
The Axeman never attacked Bergenfield, New Jersey again. To this day, the shed is under surveillance at alternating days and hours. Several decades later, the town still enforces its 9 p.m. curfew because no looking was never caught. This story was partially inspired by the Axeman of New Orleans. Some believe this man committed heinous murders years before and after his reign of terror in the Crescent City. You can read about him at legendsofamerica.com or in Serial Murder in Media Circuses by Dirk C. Gibson, or Cold Cases, Famous Unsolved Mysteries, Crimes, and Disappearances in America by Helena Katz. Original story, music, photographs, and narration by Allie Kroeper. Our logo was created by Forrest Burdett. No Looking was voiced by Hackler. Detective Lawrence Brennan was voiced by Blakely Aaronson. Chief of Police Justin Williams was voiced by Mike Bond. Rookie Cop James Schilling and Townsperson 2 were voiced by Thomas Young. Townsperson 1, Officer 1, and Journalist were voiced by Jessica Clare Jasionowski. Townsperson 3, Paperboy, Officer 3, and Child were voiced by Genevieve Blaze. Townsperson 4 and Featured Officer 4 were voiced by Christopher Wolfe. Townsperson 5, Radio Host, and Officer 5 were voiced by Hassel Velasco. A special shout out to Tom Simeone for being my photograph model. For more ASMR to give you nightmares,